Hey everybody, it's your girl PCNDC. Thanks so much for clicking on this video. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're not new here, welcome back. In this 2023 garden series, I want to talk to you about all things tomatoes today. I want to share with you what I've learned over the last 3 years so that you have more success than I did starting out when I started growing my tomatoes. First of all, I did a video a while back that talked a lot about soil enhancements. So whether you're growing your tomatoes in pots like I am, or if you're growing your tomatoes in ground, it's really important to add some enhancements so that you have the best growing medium, the best soil possible to grow your tomatoes. You noticed when I first started off this video, you saw some pots that were full of pistachio seeds. Yep. Pistachios is like one of my favorite snacks. And so since the seeds are natural, they're organic, they're just roasted pistachio shells, I just went ahead and threw those into my pots, mixed them in the soil for two things, one for drainage and one for aeration. One thing about the summer months, you'll soon learn as you're kicking off your gardens that summer months, the heat, that brings a lot of thunderstorms and the soil gets really heavy with water. And that's one thing little tomatoes don't like. They don't like their roots heavy with wet soil. And there needs to be, good drainage down in there, and there needs to be aeration as well, or else your plants can actually drown. Yep, that is a thing. I didn't know that. Now I do. So I added the pistachio shells with some other things to enhance my soil. And yeah, I started all of these tomatoes off in my house in the spring. I put 13 or 14 little seeds down in water bottles. They quickly outgrew the water bottles. I transpotted them into little pots. They outgrew that. And what you see me doing here now is putting them into what I call their summer home. So this is where they're going to finish out their days. They're going to grow for me here. And yeah, amazingly, all 13 little baby tomato seeds I planted, every single one of them germinated. And I know a lot of more seasoned gardeners say, you just throw away the smallest of the bunch. I couldn't bring myself to do it, guys. I planted all 13. So I have, I believe, 2, 4, 6, I think 9 pots there. And I put 2 to a pot in some of them. But I planted all 13 tomato seedlings. I couldn't bring myself to throw out any of them. One thing I've also learned, or another thing rather, I've also learned about tomatoes is that they love calcium-rich soil. And the best source of calcium that I knew to give them were eggshells. So what I did over, a month or two, I saved my eggshells. I let them dry out completely, put them in a sandwich baggie, and I crumbled them up. And the reason I crunched mine up and crumbled them up is because it takes a little bit of time for the eggshells to break down and the calcium to infuse into the soil. So I thought I'd help it along by crumbling it up a little bit. And I don't even remember when. It was such a gradual thing. One day I just went out to check on my tomatoes and I didn't see the shells anymore. So I just assumed at that point that the shells had been completely absorbed somewhere. Yeah. In all honesty, guys, when I kind of scanned the camera over the table and saw all of these pots, I've never grown this many tomatoes before. I was a little bit intimidated. I felt a little bit overwhelmed, but at the same time, I was a little bit excited because I wondered what the harvest was going to look like. It seems like every single summer I knock things up a notch. I take things up a notch and grow a little bit more than the summer before. And with the tomatoes, that was no exception. I grew 13 plants this summer. Pretty soon I could see growth, real growth. I was more excited than ever because this summer was extremely hot, as you all know, if you are in the US and abroad. This was a really hot summer, and I thought, oh, I would have placed all of these little seedlings out here, not knowing if I was going to be able to keep them all alive. But you know what? I did. And that came with watering every other day. Now, remember we were talking about adding good organic mixtures to your soil. Well, don't be surprised, guys. When you do that, that brings the mushrooms. Every single pot I had in my yard this summer was full of mushrooms, and I panicked. I thought something was happening. I thought maybe the soil was bad, some type of fungus got introduced and I didn't know about it. But after much research, I realized when you see mushrooms around your vegetables or in your garden pots, that simply means you have a lot of good organic material in your mixture. So basically, that's a high five to you. The mushrooms are giving you a high five. You created a very lush organic environment to grow your vegetables, and they just popped up to say hey. So don't worry about them. They're not hurting your greenies. You can leave them there. They're fine. What I'm doing here is pruning, and I'm pruning little suckers. That's what they're called. Basically, when the main stem of your tomato plant and a branch that branches off of that main stem has a little tiny growth right in the elbow or right in the joint, the V of that growth, that's called a sucker. And what suckers do primarily is basically drain the energy of the plant. You want your tomatoes to produce the most fruit for you. You got to get rid of some of the suckers. And there it is there. The main stem is where I'm pointing, and then there's a little off branch right there. And right in that elbow, right there, that's where you will always find suckers. I don't care how big or small. I'll go ahead and just pinch those off. Sometimes I can catch them when they're really little, and sometimes I miss a few, and they get some good size on them. Like this one here. Yep, you see how big that is? That almost looks like another branch, but nope, that's a sucker. It's right in that V, and I pop that off. And in doing so, this is what you can do with them. When they have good enough size like that, I could actually stick that in a little jar of water. Roots will grow, and I can grow a whole nother tomato plant. Yep, that's right. You can actually just buy one tomato plant and propagate from it. You don't have to buy any more. Yeah. So after a while, my little yellow flowers showed up, and when I saw the yellow flowers, I knew the tomatoes were not far behind. Isn't that pretty? I love that gold color against the green. Green is my favorite color. And the little baby tomatoes, that brand new right there, that pearly green. Oh my gosh, I would love a pair of earrings that look just like that. Those are so cute. But we're not talking earrings. We're talking about tomatoes. I digress. There is nothing more exciting than finally, after months of preparation, from seed to this point where you start to see fruit, you just, I don't know. You got to whip out your camera and just remember the moment. More mushrooms. Yep, soil is still good. And then we can see there's a little more size. It's exciting to watch your garden grow from a tiny little seed in your hand to this gorgeousness right here. So rewarding, so fulfilling. This little tomato here was the very first one that started to blush. I was so excited. As soon as the tomatoes get just the slightest hint of blush on them, I am out there with my scissors and I am removing them from the vine. Now, the reason I do this is because I learned a really important lesson last summer. I was growing heirlooms and I allowed them to ripen on the plant. I mean, they got just the deepest hue of red. And it was eye-catching, and it not only caught my eye, but it also caught the eyes of birds. So the birds are attracted to the color red. If you want to keep your tomatoes, honey, get them off the vine as soon as they start to blush. Trust me, you can put them in a little bowl and sit them on your kitchen counter, and they will ripen. If you want to speed up the ripening process, get a little pack of brown paper bags Yep, you can put your unripe tomatoes or any fruit inside of a brown paper bag for a day or two. They will ripen what seems like overnight. So always keep a little stash of brown paper bags. Happy growing, guys. I'll see you in the next